So my name is Ivan. I talk about key value injections. Let me first introduce myself. This is my Twitter. I'm an application security researcher with over 10 years experience and also author of Server-Side Request Forgery Bible. This is cheat sheet with numbers of examples and exploits in them of server-side request forgery. I'm also a bug hunter rewarded by different companies, and I think not so lucky bug hunter because I'm making a living by running a company called Volam. We make a web application security solution based on machine learning. So let me introduce you first with some background of this work. This work is continuation of my previous work about memcached injections presented at Black Hat 2 years ago. And in short, the conclusion of this work was it is possible to inject arbitrary memcached commands such as set, get, flush all, and others into key names. And the simple exploit can look like this. And the payload highlighted by red color, and you can see that new line delimiter can provide us to inject different instructions in data fields. So other important thing from previous work that it is also possible to break state of memcached parser by sending invalid command, such as command with a key length more than 250 bytes. And in this case, memcache server will return error after receiving a first data chunk, and but still but socket between this server and client still open, and after that client send additional packets into server, and these packets can be interpreted by server as new instructions and new commands. So, and the third important thing from previous works, it's my exploit at Facebook when I could inject some data into Elasticsearch by sending different spatial characters from JSON like braces and quotes. This is three main things which I used at my new research. So, and what is key value? Of course, there are top of popular key values databases. It's a part of NoSQL databases, as you know, I think. So first one is memcached. It's obvious and very popular, and it was my previous work 2 years ago. And second is memcached.db. It's not so popular, and based on memcache with the same bugs. Other one is Redis, React, and CouchDB, and I will talk about Redis, React, and memcached.db. So, what are different between classic SQL injection and key value injection? The really important difference is that if we talk about SQL injection, we always talk about bugs in application code. Vulnerability was in application code, and if we talk about key value injection, we always talk about vulnerability in wrappers. It's a non-application code. Wrappers can be coded at a native code, for example, on C as well as PHP. It's a really huge difference between these two kinds of injections. So now you can use simple ways to use the same techniques as you use to found and exploit SQL injection to exploit key value injections. First, replace quotes to new lines and double dots in case of REST API. If you want to select something, use get. If you want to insert something, use set. If you want to exploit server and try to put your instructions to data fields, you can also use trick with invalid keys to exceed limit with the key length, right? But sometimes this limit can be huge. For example, half a gigabyte. So no Trump anymore. How to fuzz it? First one is simple 1-byte fuzzer, and the second one is 2-byte fuzzer to cover multi-byte encoding such as Unicode. Third way to fuzz is different fuzzer by limit, by length, to find a limit of key length, right? And second, it's double dots probes, like a sparse traversal to try to abuse REST API filtration in URLs. All my work packed to Docker images, and you can download it from GitHub if you want. So GitHub can also help us. So first one is Redis, really popular database and key value. Redis have a RESP. It's a plain text protocol with a new line delimiters, but more interesting that Redis supports two different implementations of RESP in parallel. First one is called inline comments with the simple syntax like cache with the same ID, with the same comments. Really looks human readable, and but never use it in any wrappers. So, and second one is more secure and based on the self-coded rules, and the client should send to server numbers of arguments. So where is my laser sword? Yep. So client send to server number of arguments. In this example, 3, 1, 2, and 3. And before each of part of data, before each data, for example, strings, client should send to server length of this data. For that, it's really impossible to inject something. Even if you can inject new lines here, if your client, in our case, is wrapper, can calculate length clearly, he can put valid length in this field, and for that, server will interpret this packet as valid one without any injections. So Redis also supports Lua scripting engine inside Redis, and all scripts sandboxed, but recently the sandbox was bypassed, and you can use this link to look at this bypass. Of course, it's patched now. So also, Redis have a command config which can provide us to write arbitrary files on the system by using config set dir and config set db file name commands. It's also a well-known fact, and even exploit and package some security here. So I analyzed 8 PHP wrappers and 11 Python wrappers and 4 Lua wrappers, numbers of Java wrappers and Ruby wrappers, and without any results. Each of them, all of them, are using bulk strings with data length before data packets. It's really bad. So my trick with key length doesn't work because Redis closes socket after invalid comment. At this slide, you can see a part of Redis source code and the function return error closes socket. For that, of course, you can send invalid comment by sending a key with length of half a gigabyte. But after that, Redis closes socket, and there is no way to inject something here. So And last year, organizers of NDH-CTF made this task. And these tasks consist of some idea to inject something into Redis by sending new lines, characters into data fields. So I think these guys used something self-coded on a clear sockets because I have no any ideas which wrapper can be used here anymore. So after all, I was really angry, and but after really huge time my research, I found a really neat way to exploit Redis servers by sending serialized data. So when you try some wrappers such as Redis K and others by different other platforms, not only by PHP, do serialization of any data. First, this wrapper serialize object to string and then put this string into key value storage, right? Because there is no way to store something like metadata. And how this wrapper can understand which data stored in the key value stored, right? Only by this data. For this, these two examples of using seed value functions are similar, and the attacker can send serialized data as strings. For example, I can put serialized data in my password and or other data fields, right, in my requests. And the application stores this data as strings and then receive it as a string and try to suggest that it is maybe serialized data and try to serialize this. And for that, it still be exploitable in many cases. So that's all about Redis. Second one is React. React have two protocols. It's REST API and the protobuf based protocol at the separate port. REST API used by original wrapper by React vendor, and the protobuf used by other wrappers. React have no scripting engines, have a search engine based on Apache Solr, and also have a MapReduce engine which can execute different JavaScript code from client, but it's deprecate, and also Erlang engines. And it's also a well-known fact because one guy already exploited to bypass Erlang restrictions, because React can execute Erlang code only from local files. These guys first use JavaScript to put arbitrary data into local Erlang file and then evaluate this local file by Erlang command. It was really nice. So, but we talk about injections. I found that official wrapper have no any protection at key names, and if you put something like parts of URL, these parts of URL will be put it in original HTTP request, and you can bypass any. You can do something like path traversal, right? You can put, you can change REST API method by using simple double dots and slashes. And this is example of code which can demonstrate this. So, not so good, right? Third one is CouchDB. really popular one. Couch, not so key value storage because based on documents, but in general we can call it as key value. So Couch also have REST API and JavaScript sandboxed engine inside, and also CouchDB provides us function to do server-side request forgery by using a special API method called replicate. And when client calls this method, client also send to server IP address and port and host name of server. And after that, this packet interprets by server, CouchDB, and then CouchDB establishes new connection to this host. For that, it's possible to do something like server-side request forgery, because host and port controlled by attackers in this case, right? So, what about CouchDB? Ta-dam! First wrapper is SETI. It's an official wrapper because CouchDB have no official wrappers. And what we can see now, what is this? If your key starts with this byte, all escaping, which provided by roll encode function, replace it to unescaped slashes. It's really strange, but it works. So you can inject REST API traversal like as double dots, but you must put first byte. As a one example with CouchDB is chill, popular PHP wrapper for CouchDB. First one, safety function in a red frame, in a green frame. The programmer uses safety encoding by use URL encode which each of URL paths. But in other function, get view, programmer forget about that and put all data from function arguments into URL without any filtration. Really strange, but this code from GitHub, you can check me. So in this case, CouchDB like Elasticsearch. As I said before, I was able to analyze different Elasticsearch wrappers as well as key value, but before that, and I can say that Elasticsearch has the same problem because in sometimes dots are not encoded by by your own code, by RFC. And after that, if you can inject two different parts of URL, you can inject double dots and other functions such as shutdown for Elasticsearch to other part of URL. And after that, when your wrapper do something like index, really they turn it down. So REST API injections really neat, and it can be easily found by simple fuzzing. So, what conclusions? First, REST API doesn't provide us change HTTP method. We can change the URL, of course, but we have no way to change methods from put, for example, to delete or something like that. Sometimes it's possible to inject huge parts of HTTP request, especially in case of raw sockets, right? I can inject new HTTP requests inside first one to do something like that, but it's really rare. Second, one is built-in commands sometimes provide us to write files, and also provide us to server-side request forgery, and sometimes provide us to execute arbitrary codes and box it, but not so good sometimes. And third, wrappers can deserialize data by themselves. It's really neat thing. You can put serialized strings in a string fields and expect that server can deserialize it. I think you can ask me about new Java invoker exploits in these fields, because Java are really popular them in the area of unserialization last time. Yes, it's possible. Some wrappers on Java have this vulnerability, and you can put exploits from ECO GitHub project to put it in different fields and expect that Java can unserialize it after store and read from the storage, key value storage, of course. So, yep, I have 5 minutes for questions. This is my Twitter. This is Twitter of my company. This is our GitHub repository with Dockers, which consists of numbers of examples from this talk. So thank you.